An exclusive interview for CNBC this morning. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here from Munich. I want to kick off by asking you specifically about the coronavirus. I know that you spoke with our U.S. colleagues just a few days ago about this specifically, but it's a rapidly evolving situation, isn't it? What's your take on what's happening today? Would you go to China?
What we face is still a high degree of uncertainty. We are at the point of making scenarios, not projections. And in that scenarios world, we have to be careful not to compare too much to SARS, which is our reference point. Why? Because this virus is different, because China is different, and because the world economy is in a different place. We don't yet know how exactly the virus spreads and how it would be contained. China in the early 2000s was 8% of the world economy. Now it is 19%. Therefore, a spillover from China integrated, especially in Asia, but also with the rest of the world, is much more significant. And the world economy, unfortunately, in the 2000s was in relatively good shape, actually quite good shape, and now sluggish. All that means is that while we are hoping that the virus would be contained, and actually we do encourage China to focus on that. What can they do to contain the spread of the virus? What can they do to boost their economy? For fairness to China, they have taken two very important steps. A lot of attention to the areas that are affected, and liquidity boost, $115 billion worth, cut of interest rates by 10 BPs, and a stimulus to the areas to prop up the local economy. When we look forward, the next 2 weeks would be quite critical because Chinese factories are opening up. That would give us a better understanding on the resilience of China, and on that basis spill over for the rest of the world. We are of course also watching how the virus is going outside of China. For now, it is not a major issue, but if it spreads into weak health system countries, for example in Africa, that may also change. Bottom line, we don't know enough. We have to be vigilant, and we have to recognize that we are dealing with uncertainty in a relatively weak overall world economy.
Even the Chinese government has said that they're dealing with coronavirus with, quote, a wartime kind of crackdown. How dangerous is that, do you think? I mean, would you go to China today?
Well, you asked me this question. I don't have plans to go to China, but I can tell you that I would be careful not to get to that extreme rejection of interconnectivity, because our world is really interconnected. We don't want to disrupt tremendously what makes the world economy function. So be cautious. Like if I am to go to China, I guarantee you I would have a lot of hand washing, and I would pay very close attention to where I am, who I'm with. And I certainly, if I go to China, when I go back, I will stay out of my office for a good number of days to protect my co-workers. The very important message to all of us is that when we have so much uncertainty outside of our control, policymakers should not take actions that add to this uncertainty. We should be supporting a boost of the world economy that is, I want to repeat that, not in the best of shapes, by trying to reduce uncertainties as much as we can.
When you speak of policymakers, are you referring directly to Steven Mnuchin, the Treasury, the Finance Minister, Treasury Secretary, I should say, of the United States? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about phase 2 of a trade deal. U.S. President Donald Trump has suggested in the past that he wants to get that done before the election. How likely is it, do you think, that we're going to see the United States pushing on this now?
Let me first say that phase 1 was very helpful to the world economy. what we saw as a result of reduction of trade tensions is a chance to actually upgrade China's growth projections for 2020. We boosted them in early January, just before the coronavirus, from 5.8% to 6%. Now this is going to likely go to the reverse. I think that right now the Chinese authorities, and rightly so, are concentrated on containing what is a threat to their people. Let's remember, the virus is first and foremost a human tragedy, but also containing the impact that could have on the rest of the world. I do believe that the intentions on both sides, US and China, are very firm on moving forward with phase 2. As you know, travel in and out of China now is much more restricted. And again, the Chinese authorities are doing the right thing. First thing first, contain the spread of the epidemic.
So best for now to put that phase 2 on the back burner.
I don't see how it could be on the front burner. On the front burner, there is a coronavirus to fight.
Walk me through how you see this playing out with regards to the Chinese economy. Obviously, it's very early days, but we've seen analysis in the last 24 to 48 hours that would suggest a spending splurge by the Chinese government wouldn't be a good idea at this point. Where does the IMF stand?
Where we are is we are encouraging the liquidity boost because the financial system needs to be able to spur as much growth as possible in these very difficult circumstances. We do advise to be cautious on where stimulus should go because we don't yet quite know where it would be most helpful. The positive side of China is that they do have fiscal space. So as we go through these next weeks, and hopefully the epidemic is contained, then it will be the right time for China to decide how best they can inject more growth. Of course, the critical question today is global value chains and how are they impacted by the coronavirus. What is happening in the tourism industry? How protracted the impact might be? And all of this, again, we have to be careful not to jump ahead of where we are, not to put the cart before the horse. We still have a great deal of uncertainty on the nature of the epidemics, on its impact, and how best it can be addressed.
Obviously, we're
but
here.
China is resilient. They have the capacity to come up, provided that the epidemics is indeed contained.
We've got one more question, and I want to ask you about Munich and Germany as a whole. Obviously, the engine of European growth has seen a significant impact and slowdown over the last several months in terms of the economy. Now this coronavirus, like a black swan moment potentially for Germany's economy. When you think about this more broadly, are we headed toward a recession, do you think?
Well, we have been going in the wrong direction. Germany in 2017 grew 2.5%, in 2018 1.5%, last year 0.5%. We were hoping for a revival. We are still projecting over 1% growth. We are now seeing that the impact on German manufacturing from the disruption of global value chains can be quite significant. Again, we don't know exactly what it would be. And we also know that, broadly speaking, Germany is going to go through some structural changes because of the way core industries, export industries in Germany have to adapt to changes in the world. But there are two things that work for Germany. One is the decision to go with the Green Deal in Europe and the pickup in Germany in that regard. That can be a big boost for creating jobs and new opportunities, for boosting innovation in Germany. And two, the euro is down, and when the euro is down, all other things equal, German exports are up. Let's see how much that would compensate for the difficulties that Germany is experiencing. And let's remember, if there is a country in Europe that has fiscal space, Germany is that country.
So you're more positive on Germany than perhaps the others would say.
I think that Germany has a strong economic fundamental. They are at the point when they are losing a bit confidence because of the drop in manufacturing. But am I optimistic about Germany? Very innovative, very disciplined labor force, and with open mind on moving towards more competitiveness. I think we can say, even if today in Munich the skies may be gray, it doesn't mean that the future of Germany is dark.
What about the United Kingdom before I let you go? Because we've seen a cabinet reshuffle in the last 24 hours. This is at a crucial time for the United Kingdom's economy as they begin their journey, their post-European journey, if you will. How dangerous is it that we're seeing such an inconsistency?
When we talk about the United Kingdom, we need to remember that at least they reduced uncertainty because of very clear decision about the exit from the European Union. That, by the judgment of the IMF, means some 0.3, 0.4 percentage points improvement in longer-term growth prospects, just because that risk of crashing out of the EU with no deal is now lower. But it is not zero. We still have a great deal of uncertainty how exactly the divorce between the EU and the UK would take place. The decisions internally to make reshuffle, this is not the issue. The issue is more what policy path the UK would follow. We are projecting the UK economy to grow 1.4% 2020, 1.5% next year.
And that doesn't change with regards to a cabinet reshuffle.
For now, we have no reason to change this projection. What is really, really important is for the UK to recognize that, yes, they're an island, but they're not a ship that can sail away from the continent. And that interdependence between the UK and the continental Europe will continue. Make it as effective and efficient as possible.
We know that Lebanon, of course, has made a technical request to the IMF. Is there something that they could do as a government that would signal to you a positive sign that they're headed in the right direction?
Well, there are very significant policy decisions Lebanon has to make. They have been postponing very key reforms, taking on a clear path to resolve the underlying disbalances and show that they can reform the country. This is very critical. We will send the technical team, and on that basis we would have a better judgment. It is in a very difficult position. The country is in a very difficult position. Not time to waste to address what has not been addressed for far too long.
How crucial is the U.S. relationship with Lebanon in getting to that point?
Of course, it is very important for Lebanon to have the support of organizations like the IMF, but also to have the support of key countries. It is critical not only because ultimately they would need financial support, it is critical because they need to be seen as capable to turn around the fate of the country from a very low and difficult position.